Hi, I'm Mike Haduck, and today we're going to talk about real estate part 2. The first part I talked about having the apartments, flipping houses, building some garages and a cabin type of house, and I wasn't too happy of having apartments. I didn't want to deal with people. You know, when you're flipping a house, you got the house, and then you sell it and you're done. But when you got apartments, people calling you up, the dog bit someone fell on the steps, someone dumped garbage over here, and I wasn't too much into dealing with that. So, but anyway, I wanted to go get my real estate license because I couldn't get these people to do their jobs, basically. I figured I'll get my own real estate license and I'll take care of all the issues myself. So in Pennsylvania at that time, you had to go take 2 courses. It was like 2 college courses on real estate to get your license. So I took the 2 courses, then I had to take the state exam, pass the state exam, and the next step is you have to go under a broker. There's the brokers, and then there's the agents, and there's assistant brokers. So I knew a friend, I went to school with him, didn't know really good, but got to know him really good. As a matter of fact, he was just down here a couple months ago, and I went under him as an agent. And he asked me, he said, do you know how to build a fountain? I said, yeah, stone fountain. And I built the fountain for him, and he kind of liked the way I did it, and he gave me my first listing. And what it was these people inherited a house. The old people died off, was in the will, they got the house. Okay, so the will's over with, the house is in their name, basically, and listed the house, and another agent from another company came and they made an offer on the house. So okay, they decided to buy the house, and then all of a sudden I get a phone call from the title insurance company. Now, what's title insurance? When you go to buy a house, you want to get title insurance. That's ensuring that that title is good. There's all different types of titles. There's quick claim titles, tax deed titles, there's special warranty titles, or general warranty deeds. And what that is if you get a general warranty deed, usually that's the best one. That's guaranteeing that there's no liens or encumbrances. And who issues that is the title insurance company. When you get the deed, it goes through the title insurance company. They write out the deed, unless you have a lawyer, and then that's a good deed. Now, you could get a quick claim deed, but they're only giving you the interest they have in that property. You might have liens against it, tax liens, encumbrances, all this other stuff. So you always go and you get title insurance if you want to guarantee that that title's good. So the title insurance company calls me up, and they said, we got a problem. There's someone in that prior deed 30 years ago that had the right to live in that house until they died. So I called the people up, explained the problem, and they said, well, that guy, he died 30 years ago. He said, so I was supposed to go down and get the death certificate. The title company wants a death certificate to prove that that guy's dead. So I go down to get the death certificate. Well, they wouldn't give it to me because I am not a family member. So I called them up and said, I can't get it. You have to come down and get it. And then I got yelled at. You don't know what you're doing. We hired you. You're supposed to do all this stuff. That's what we're paying for you. I said, look, they won't give me the death certificate. So finally they went down. We got the death certificate, handed it to the title company. Now it's a clear title. They get the house. Anytime you list a house, what you got to do, and what our policy was, we go to the property. We walk the property, right? We want to see where all the boundaries are. We want to see how many bedrooms. Does it have a shingle roof? Does it have a metal roof? Does it have a garage? Is there a basement? How's the furnace? You have to go and look at all this stuff. And then the seller has to fill out what is called a disclosure form. He's got to write down on that property what he knows about it. Does the basement leak? Is there any standing water? Does the roof leak? All this stuff has to be disclosed. Did someone die in the basement? And was there a crime in the house? That's, they don't have to a lot of times, but that's part of it. Maybe there was a multi-murders in a house. It's a stigma, they call it, to a house. So anyway, did it have termites? That's a disclosure statement. And then when you do sign the thing, you have to put it on the multi-listing service. When I first started, they had books. And every month a new book would come out with all the listings, but then the computers were coming out. And by the time I got there, it was the computers. You look up all the houses in the area, what they were selling for, how many days on market. Sometimes you'll see DOM when you get the little sheet. DOM, days on market. If that's on there over 30 days, 40 days, usually a problem with the house, somehow, some way. And so you do that, then everybody knows what the listings are. Well, the second house I had, what happened was, it came through me, through a friend, went and looked at the house, walked the property. The new owner, same thing, inherits the house. He says, one of the things I know about the property is the septic tank is on the other people's property. Okay, that's pretty good. So he called up the surveyor. Surveyor comes in. Now there's a difference between the tax maps and the surveyor maps, night and day. They come in, he surveys the property, that's what the owner wants. He writes a new deed for this property and a new deed for the other property. Then we go to sell the house, and guess what? The airport claims another piece of that property, 3 feet by 100 feet. It was a long piece of property, 60 feet wide. And the guy was going, what do I do now? I said, just give it to them. Don't even contest it. Just give them that property, and it's over with. And that's what they did. But there's always something wrong with a property like that. Now, the third property I had, and I'm not talking about the ones I flipped. I'm talking about the ones I actually sold. Another one was in our town. And at one time, the bottom was a butcher shop, and the top, people lived on it. So they rented the top out, and then they turned the bottom into an apartment. So when you're listing the house, it's listed. You got to call up the county and say, how is this property listed? Well, it's a B2. I says, well, there's no business there anymore. It's apartments. There's apartment up top and apartment down the bottom. Oh no, you can't do that. It's this and that. The owner, I called the owner up. I says, they don't want to list it as an apartment. He said, what do we do? Get a lawyer? I says, nope, let's get in the car. Got in the car, drove down to the courthouse, walked into the zoning. The guy's in there eating a sandwich. It's like watching a Columbo movie. I said, yeah. I said, I just talking to you on the phone. This apartment was, he goes, oh yeah, that's a B2. You can't do nothing about it. I said, well, I want you to put that in writing and give it to me. He goes, what town was that? Well, it was in Avoca. Oh yeah, we just got their zoning stuff. Nah, you'll be okay. It's grandfathered in. It's 2 apartments. And the problem, instead of going through lawyers and all this other stuff, that was a successful sale. But there's a lot of things could hold you up like that when you're doing properties. So now when you're listing a property and you're looking at what is the property worth, how do you do that? Say you want to sell your house and you call me up and you say, yeah, I want to sell this. How do I know what this property's worth? Well, you could hire an appraiser, an outside appraiser, but he's only going to do the same thing I'm doing. I had appraisers call me up and ask me how I came to this number. And I would go into the multi-listing service and I look at 3 houses, 4 houses, 5 houses, whatever it takes, next to that house, as close to that house, with the same number of bedrooms, same number of bathrooms. Does it have a garage? How big is the lot? Swimming pools sometimes are a detriment. And you figure out, you write them all down, and you give these people CMA. A CMA is what they call a comparative market analysis. And all the appraisers and everything do the same thing. And you learn this stuff from your broker. Every time you get something in a house, you got to go to your broker and say, this is what I'm doing, what do I do? And they usually have someone in the office that'll kind of guide you, tell you what to do, what the forms are, what you missed, what you didn't miss. And you got to be very careful. You got to make sure everything's disclosed. the property lines. You might have a dispute with a neighbor. You know, you don't want all this stuff to turn up as you're selling the house. So after you get to the CMA, you know, you could get an appraiser and you could list the house at this price. And one of the rules of real estate are, the golden rule in real estate is the guy with the gold makes the rules. The guy with the gold makes the rules. If I'm buying a house, I'm telling you what I'm going to give you for it. I'm going to tell you if I'm going to accept it after the inspection. I'm going to tell you if I want the roof fixed before I buy it. I want to see a surveyor before I buy it. The guy with the gold usually makes the rules. So sometimes, anytime there was an inspection in the house, the buyers wanted an inspection. They have it in there that they have the right to walk away from the house if they're not happy with the inspection. You have to be there for the inspections if you're a really good agent. You go to the inspections, you go through the whole house with them. You know, and some of these guys are crazy. They'll take a little thing without the cover on it, and they'll say safety issue, and actually scare the people if they're the first time home buyers. Or, you know, there'll be a plug wrong or a wire going wrong or something minimal. And, you know, they have the right to inspections. Then at the end, you have a final walkthrough before they go and sign the papers. One time I was selling one of my own houses, and we went there and we signed all the papers, and before she signed the last paper, she said, "We'll be right back. We're going to walk through that house first." They got up and they left. About 45 minutes they came back, signed the papers. It was as I said it was going to be. You know, I didn't try to sneak anything out, or, you know, I was honest about it. And a lot of people ain't honest though, so you gotta watch all the time. When I started, there was 9 pages on the contract. By the time I left, there was 13 pages, 4.5 years later. Now, sometimes, if you're going to buy a house, the very first thing you want to do is you want to go get a pre-approved letter, pre-qualification letter. You go to the bank, this is what I got, this is what I could put down, will you give me a loan on a home? And they'll look at your finances and say, yeah, we'll loan you up to $100,000, but you have to put 5% down or 10% down depending on your thing. Now, we had a policy in our office that if you're going to buy a house, you have to either have a pre-qualification letter done by the bank or a letter from the bank saying that you had the money. One time, these people wanted to buy an apartment building, and I knew the girl. She brought her boyfriend, and he supposedly had 3 transmission shops. Yeah, he said, I got 3 transmission shops and 2 houses, and yeah, I want to buy this building. And he says, our policy is that I cannot write a contract until your pre-qualification letter, unless I have it. Broker won't let me do it. I'm working under him. I don't need it. So I gave him the name of the mortgage broker, and he went down. The broker called me up and said, this guy ain't got a dime to his name. I couldn't even give him a loan for a sandwich unless he sold 2 of his cars right then and there. I'm not going to write a contract and wait the sellers cost 2 months or 3 months down the road. He couldn't get past the first step. So if you're going to buy a house, go get a pre-qualification letter from the bank first. Like I said about inspections, I don't have much faith in inspectors. Building inspectors, they go in and they always got to find something wrong. That's their job. Now, what I did, I always went with them, and then I would know what's going on. I know what to tell the people and how to think. Now, I wasn't really interested in listing houses. The last house, as a matter of fact, it was an odd house. Really big house in a little neighborhood right on the main street. It was zoned for business, and they lived upstairs, same thing. But it was zoned for business and occupancy. I don't know how they did that, but they did. And I had to go do a CMA, comparative market analysis. Well, there was only 2 houses in the whole 5-mile area that came close. And I went to the guy and I said, look, here's what these houses sold for. Pretty close to the same size, same thing. Well, he said, what are you going to sell it for? I said, 150 grand. He said, listen, I had a guy tell me he'd give me 300 grand for this house. So, okay, why don't you call a guy up and see if he wants to buy the house? Well, he called the guy up. The guy decided, no, I changed my mind. I don't want it. He wouldn't believe me, so I brought my broker down. Broker's the head of the company. I said, talk to this guy and try to talk some sense. He said to him, look, I've been in this for 30, 40 years. He goes, if you want, we could start out at 250. He said, I'm not going to go any higher than that and take the listing because you're wasting my time. Okay, so put the house at 250. And we put it that he was going to sell the house for cheaper. Every month he would drop it 5%. Well, we had 100 walkthroughs, and a year later he sold the house for 150. So overpriced houses, when people come around and say, I want this much for a house, and I look at it and go, no way, man, you ain't going to get it. I don't care if another listing agent takes it because it's only aggravation. So that's that. Our every second Monday we'd have a meeting. You know, you had a big table, there'd be the 15 agents, and then we had the broker, and the girl was like the assistant broker, and we'd all have to tell them what we had as far as listings and buyer's agents and what we were doing. And our policy was if that house didn't sell, every couple weeks, drop the price 3%. That was the policy. So you got to kind of warm them up into that when you're selling the house and saying, if this house doesn't sell, you got to drop the price every month or so. Of course, it's up to them, but if you want to sell something, that's how you got to do it. Now, what happened with me was, as I was working this, people found out I was a mason. They knew I could fix sidewalks and foundations, and I could go do chimneys and all this stuff. And in our area, there was a lot of bad basements, a lot of chimney repair. And the inspector would come in and say, oh no, that chimney has to be, that's no good. The people wouldn't buy the house until the house is fixed. So I get a phone call, Mike, can you go fix the chimney? Yeah, I go look at it. How much is it going to cost? They want this done in a week. Now, I usually plaster it, wait 30 days to paint it. You don't have time. Same thing with the outside of the thing. There's a hole in the side of the foundation. You got to fix it. You got to paint it within a couple of days or the house ain't going to sell. So a lot of that you see on my videos, a lot of those foundations and everything was me going in, fixing them so they could sell the house. There was one inside, I remember I had to get all the mold off of it, and then I went and painted it, and then I had to go paint the outside. I mean, the only thing you could do is make it look better. Then the inspector comes back and goes, yeah, it looks good. And you sell the house. But I started making a lot more money doing that than listing houses and dealing with buyers. One of the things are buyers are liars. I had this one buyer, I must have taken him around to 30 houses, and he never bought one. You know that? So he'll buy it off someone else. So I wanted to go to Florida. You know, if you're listing someone's house, you can't sell it if you want to be in Florida. But it's a great experience, and I knew when I got out of it, I knew how it all operated. After 4.5 years, I was very good at residential real estate. I bought maybe 3 of them, and when I got out of it, it was 2008. I had one house of my own left, and the bottom was falling out. I remember it, and there was still guys out there buying at high prices, thinking that they're going to make money on these houses, but everything come crashing down. And that's what I got out of it. But then I was back into masonry. You know, YouTube was starting. That's another thing I was doing okay on. Music was still doing pretty good. I was still going overseas. So here's what I got to tell you. I always put a little proverb down. In all labor there is profit, but idle chatter only leads to poverty. And what's that saying is you got to go out and take a chance. Even if you didn't make any money, you still learn something from it. And you learn what to do, what not to do. It makes you smarter. But if you're going to sit around a bar all day long and not take chances, that's your own fault. That's what that proverb means. So let me tell you how the money works. I didn't talk about that. Let's say you have a $100,000 house. Now you charge 6% commission on the house. So you sell the house in-house in your agency. I make $3,000. My broker makes $3,000. If another agent comes in from another agency, then I get $1,500. My broker gets $1,500. Her broker gets $1,500. And her agent who sold the house gets $1,500. That's usually how it's all set up. Sometimes you can say to the owner, listen, I'll give you a 4% deal if I sell it in-house, between me and the broker. If I'm the seller's agent and I'm the buyer's agent, then I could get a little more commission. But you have to do what's good for the client. You have to do the honest thing and get him the best deal you can. Maybe someone from the other side will come in and say, I got cash. I don't want any inspections. I want that house and I'll give you the money as soon as the title insurance is good. That's the best deal for the client. You can't go wrong. Instead of trying to sell it in-house and being dishonest, you can't do that. Now, some brokers and some agents, they have a difference. Like, in other words, you get a real hotshot agent. That agent might sell 35, 40 houses in a year, 50 houses. Maybe they're just boom, 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 boom. There's people like that. They might get more of a commission, maybe 60% or 70% out of that 6%. Instead of like making their $3,000 on a $100,000 house, they might make $4,000. They might have a deal with the broker. The broker usually tries to keep their best agents. That's what they try to do. So if some real good brokers knows what it takes to sell a house. I was building a wall. He called me up and says, you got to fix this wall so I could sell a house. So I go down there, I'm putting a new retaining wall in. Then all of a sudden, the people that were supposed to sell the house are supposed to have it cleaned out. He says, Mike, could you give me a hand? I got to clean this house out. So the next day we spent a half a day loading the pickup trucks, taking it to the dumpsters, getting rid of it, cleaning the house ourselves. Boom, next day the house sold. If we didn't do that, it would have delayed the selling of the house. And you don't want that. Once you get to a certain point, you're running with the ball, you're going down the thing, you're getting 20 yards here, 30 yards there, 10 yards there. You're 10 yards before the goal line. You got to do this to get through the goal line. That's what you got to do. A good broker will go the extra mile and make sure that house sells. And like you call these companies up, they got Zillow, they'll take 3% or something, but they're I don't know if they're going to do anything like that. I don't know. When I dealt with a seller, I would go beyond what I had to do. Sometimes I'd do an open house. I'd see a crack in the wall. I'd bring a little extra cement and fix it for them. What's it cost me? $1? You know what I mean? And I would do stuff like that. I would go beyond to sell a house what I was supposed to do. I think I said it all. It was a great experience. And when I left, I wasn't worried because I knew all this stuff. I know the system and how it goes and all this other things. So the next video is going to be about me selling everything in Pennsylvania and moving to Florida and what I see in real estate around here, what's going on. Now this video was made Memorial Day 2025, so the end of May. I'm going to tell you what's going on because the prices are on their way down. I watched them go up, now I'm watching them go down. It's a whole different world. What's going on with all the new laws for condos, that'll be on the next video. So I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. I'm Mike Haduck. I'll see you next video.